Now we finally arrived at the day, and it's been a long time coming, that I want to lay out that stripe. And I've been patient about waiting for the right day. I think today is the right day. So what we have to do, the first part of this job, is I have to put the two fairing sides, the seat, and the tank on the bike. I'll get that done, have a nice hot cup of coffee, and then what I want to do is start laying out the stripe. Now I really try to stack the deck in my favor. I bought, this is over $100 worth of tape, of all different thicknesses and sizes, because I know when I go to lay out that stripe, I'm going to change my mind 1,000 times. I was on purpose laying out a day that I would have plenty of time. I didn't want to do this, you know, and have an hour and be kind of rushed to do it. And it was such an important part of this job to get these parts, the body work done on them. And if you followed through some of these other videos, we have really done a job of, there's body work within body work, but I think they're ready to go. Now another thing, I didn't want to lay this out on such a day that I couldn't push the bike out into the yard. There's no chance of rain today, 0 precip. So when I get these parts on, I get some tape lined up, I can push it outside and take a look at it and have Karen look at it. So a couple of things I have to be really careful with, because these parts are painted. I don't want to get any greasy fingerprints on them. I want to keep my hands as clean as possible when I mount them up, but I want to get them in the exact position they'll be in when the bike is assembled. It sounds easy, but trying to keep parts immaculately clean like this can be a little bit of a challenge. Well, the tank is pinned right in the right position, because I know that stripe is going to wind up going through there. I even thought about it at some point in time. I was thinking and dreaming about using chalk lines and stuff. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to try to do this all with tape. Now, of course, I have to take the support bar off that I was using to hold this with. There's another point. And this type of seat, when you use it on an FZR, it's very prone up in the front here to scratch the paint, because you have to spread it as you put it over the seat area. So what I decided to do is put some blue tape on that just to get it in position, try not to chew up that paint. And my trusty quartz heater, when it's below freezing like it is now, always helpful. Now I've learned by putting that FZR seat on over and over, you always tend to scratch the paint. So what I've tried to do is put a little blue tape there and a little blue tape on the seat. This might be interesting. Yeah, it looks like that blue tape is a good idea. May have to do it even after the bike is painted and buffed out. And I thought of another thing. Maybe I could put some of that clear wrap in that area that's always prone to get chipped, because you gotta spread this apart to slide it over. Kind of a little bit of an awkward thing, but it seems to work fine once it's done, if you don't mind having a paint chipped. Now I know it's really important to get the seat solid mounted, because there's a gap around the seat, and this is a whole new piece of fiberglass that's on the motorcycle. So having a tank mounted, and you can see now, get some idea of why I wanted to have that edge a little bit nicer than it was before. Okay, so now it's just a question of mounting up the body panels and making sure they're in good alignment. See, if the seat was loose, and it is rubber mounted, of course, if this is loose and the tank is loose, getting a straight line to go down both of them is going to be almost impossible. So both of them are rigid mounted now. So our next issue with the tank and the seat mounted the way I want to get the bolts in the fairing side, because that's going to be the three things I need that all have to line up. Well, this basically is going to give me the alignment that I need. Let's hope I'm right. So I got all the pieces solid mounted here, and I noticed this is one of the things where the engine mount sticks through. I'm going to mark that with a marker, because I want to polish that at some future time while I'm waiting for paint to dry. And that little piece that shows through there, now I'll polish up a little bit up and back. I've never done that, and that's due for a nice polishing. Clean that all up, because that's going to be part of it that's going to show through the scoop, and it's going to be right in the middle of our Yamaha ladders. So now I've been able to get in one, put the motorcycle all the way over in the garage, and I'm able to lay out just, hopefully, some idea of how this is going to play out. Seems pretty simple, but it really isn't. Now, of course, this is just a piece of 1/8 inch tape to give me some rough idea of how this is going to lay out. I'll put the lower line on next. So I need to make a point that I learned from doing aeroplanes. You can make all the sketches you want on a flat piece of paper, but you have to see how it's going to lay out when you actually lay it out on a round object. An example is if you look at a globe and then you lay it out flat, well, it's quite different. So here's the point that I wanted to make. I want to have this line and the other line, and what I'm trying to avoid, I want to go through this area, but I don't want to go up through here because the stripe is going to get all funky. So I'd want to avoid that if possible. The stripe will go around. Then I need to transpose it down into where the tank is, and I can do that from a side view, but this is like having a chalk line on the bike, and so this worked out, I guess, better than I thought it would. But I need to look at it from a lot of different ways. Now, one of the choices I have is, and I thought about this, I could put this lower line down here. So I'm going to go back and forth and lay this out several different ways, and obviously I dedicated the whole day to it. Then when I'm done with, and I'm happy with one side, I don't even care if this goes into a second day, I'll make a paper pattern of each one of the ladders and then transpose it over to move the motorcycle, transpose it over to the other side. That's a good thing I bought all this tape, because I started laying things out with the wider tape, and not going to happen. So luckily, I just go down one size in tape, and I've got the perfect size. Now, otherwise, what would happen is I'd be on my way to Gavin's right now. So that investment in tape is really starting to pay off today. Now, a lot of the stuff I'm going to try to explain is it's in the mind's eye. It's in the eye of the beholder. So what I'm trying to create is the look that this bar goes right through. It's going to go through the tank. It's going to go through there. Now, well, I originally thought I was going to go on my concept drawings, because they were flat, it looked better up into the scoop. But in reality, there's a little curve to the fairing that picks up the curve in the tail section, and I think that's going to look better at that line. So I'm going to just roughly lay that out now with the second largest size tape, and then I get rid of the 1/8 inch tape along the way. Another thing that's a problem, if you look, as you do the front, if you keep it straight, it starts to look, it's mechanically right, but it looks like it's going downhill. So right at the very end, this is going to have to go uphill just a little bit to look like it's straight. And that's part of the thing when you're doing a three-dimensional object, not a flat piece of paper. And it's why I decided I wanted to have at least one day, maybe 2 days out here, going back and forth, making patterns, and give Karen the final say, because she's a trained artist. Now, I always knew this was going to be a lot more difficult. I knew this all along. But the challenge is why this is worth doing. And this is, again, one of the things when you transpose a flat drawing, it's like taking a picture of the United States on a flat map and trying to put it on a globe. When you transpose that design, now my only concern was I didn't want to go through that area. Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but I think I got the proportion right. I'm pretty close to it. I know I don't want it any thicker than that because we have to put a border edge on it. Yeah, I think I'm getting close. Now see, here's another challenge, but we have a way around it. As you take this stripe, and I want this to go right through the tank, so I try to get back at a normal angle. Yeah, that would be fine. But what happens, because of the curve of the tank, this runs downhill. So to get this right, I'm going to do it with several pieces of thinner tape, because I want that to be parallel to this line. Otherwise, if I do it in one piece of tape, it's going to drop down. And that's why when you look at some of the pictures on of the Yamahas and people that have converted, people that have done similar things to this, so many of them get it wrong. And maybe I'm going to join that list pretty soon. I don't know. That's how much wrong it is, because I want that, as I lower my eye, I want that to line right up with that top stripe. Again, every part of this, every part is difficult. It looks so easy, but like anything worth having, it's not. Now, it's very difficult to take into account that front, because that, at some angles, as you stand up, that becomes a curve this way. So we're only trying to, I'm trying to make it as effective as I can, so I can look at it this way from the side. Of course, the same thing applies here. It's that thing putting things on a globe. So now I can cut that piece of tape, wrap it around both sides. I've got what I hope are these two bars in the position that isn't exactly like the concept sketch and isn't exactly how I started out, but you always have to be flexible and be able to massage these things as you go along. And that's why I bought so much tape. So now the next thing is to trim this piece of tape in there, get it to go up in there, and then stand back and make sure we're not going uphill or downhill. Now I laid out the tail end 3 different ways. I wanted to have it go around, flat, and until I put the bars in, I'm not really going to know. But I've got the basic, what I hope, the basic outline in here. Boy, if you think this went in 2 hours, wow. This is an all-day project just laying out one side of this. We haven't even laid out one side yet. And it's just the whole question. Tape on, tape off, like at the Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. Now, it's a totally different thing, but I do remember laying out this tail section in such a way that I wanted this to go around or go down or up or whatever. And then I finally came up with that as my final choice. And another thing is, you know, we want to put a stripe around a stripe. This is not going to end at one color, so I've got to account for that thickness of that extra stripe. An example is, of course, on the ladders for this, there's the ladder's end is a black stripe and a white stripe. So I don't know if I'll want that. But having all these things right out in the garage with me just makes this even more, it's like having too many things to pick from. There are a couple of criteria. One is the bars that go vertically, they can't be straight up and down. They have to lean back just a little bit, but how much? Now I don't want that first bar disappearing into this scoop, so I almost don't have a choice about laying out the first one. But then the second bar is going to wind up being funky, the third one, and I don't know from that point on until I lay this out and get an angle in my mind. So by using that angle, now I can just kind of, and I have to do this by eye. It would be nice, you know, if we could make this bike go into a computer and we could make these angles go back and forth. But I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to have to do this the old school way. Just lay this out basically by eye. Now this is all by eyeball. And keep in mind, this thickness in this whole parameter of things is got to be, as these stripes come to the front, they get thicker and thicker. So I'm going to start back here adding a little bit of a 1/2 inch tape, almost all of an 1/8 inch tape, and then a full 1/8 inch tape to the whole perimeter because these stripes get bigger in the front and taper at the back. And that's all part of the eyeball, have to do it. That's why I bought a lot of tape. This is another kind of critical thing, is because these stripes are getting thicker, the bars are getting wider. As I'm coming back, the angle doesn't change. But by making this box, I have to transpose that out. As I started out, if you make that even one tape thickness too long, boy, it looks wrong. It just, your eye picks it up right away. So by getting this exactly, that each one is dropping by about 1/4 inch, it just works out right. Well, you can't imagine how many hours and how many times I've gone back and forth with this and looked at it from every possible angle, and I'm trying to do that right now, of course. And I'm picturing in my mind what that's going to look like. Don't forget we have other stripes. They're going to go right down, the same as the fender, right down the middle of the tank. So this is only one of several things that have to be laid out, but this is all in a mind's eye. This really, this even took longer than I thought it would. Now, the back is going to be, we're not adding, we added 1/8 of an inch and then a little more than 1/8 of an inch here. We're not going to add anything in the back. And unless I see that I need to taper it and just let the little bit stick out. But getting the boxes that they just look right. Because as they go around corners, as you measure it, then you look at it from the side, it's that globe thing. Even a little thing in what I've been doing, going through my rolls of tape, because these blocks get smaller this way, the stripes get thinner, and so getting these angles right, and I try to do this by eye, just run that angle right up, and I'm not doing it with my hand, of course, but when I looked at that from several angles, it's really important that we don't vary that angle. And the problem with a lot of this stuff is you just have to do it infinitely. That's why I bought all this tape. Boy, that's going to be the... And I was thinking I may even get this done in one. I'm not sure I'm going to get this done in 2 days. But I want that to be... I have a vision in my mind of how I want that to be, and I don't want to compromise it. Boy, there's a lot of things in life I know, especially my life, turn out to be a labor of love. I'm not sure I really nailed this yet. I gotta look at it. In fact, it's getting so late in the day, I decided I was going to do a decision that I almost never make. I'm going to work after dark here because the plan was to get one side done. Now see, a couple of things I like that I got this stripe in, and it didn't have to go through the scoop. But I'm not crazy about this going through there, so what I'll do is I'll polish that. This one I know is going to look a little awkward because it's going up and going around a corner, but nothing I can do about it. But I've got the angle. I pretended I had the two boxes, kind of eyeballed it. But again, this is all in the eye of the beholder anyway. Now, from this point on, what I want to do is I want to put the stripe that's going to go around it. And I'm going to work till after dark today because I want to get one side done with the stripe included. And then I want to make a paper pattern for each one of these boxes so that when I go to flip and do the other side tomorrow, I can get it symmetrical, even though you'll never see it. Nobody will ever see it, even me. Unless you have two heads, one on each foot peg. But it doesn't matter. I want it symmetrical. Okay, now I have laid out the border stripe, and then this is going to get pulled up, and that also is going to be a border stripe. So this will be black, white, black. Now, of course, the last thing is to do the outline stripe on the front, and we'll be ready to make up patterns. Now we're closing in on a very, very long day. Oh, I'm not used to working this long. Getting too old for this, but I do have the stripe, the vision, that it's very close to what I really thought how this would look when it was done. And that black, the black going through there with the black thick outline, it should be right on the yellow, the stripe going down the tank. This should be quite a nice looking bike when it's done, and very one-of-a-kindish. Now, it's already totally dark out there, so I can't push it out in the driveway and see what it looks like, but I can do that tomorrow. I still have to make patterns up. Well, may as well do it tonight and get it over with and start fresh tomorrow. So there's the moon in the sky, and as we go back out in here, I have some just ordinary office paper, and what I need to do now, it'll be pretty simple, make one pattern for each one of the blocks, and that's going to be it for today. Boy, what a day. Drank a lot of coffee, but boy, I'm going to sleep well tonight. I think that's really going to look nice. And boy, that is hopefully going to be a very unique paint job. Took me a long time to think this one up. Now the other advantage of making a paper patterns, and I'll keep them forever. If I ever want to do something similar to that, this on another bike. I see another guy over there says, But anyway, I want to take the paper, lay it on top of this, and just put an ink dot in 4 corners. Then take a ruler, connect the dots, and cut it out with a pair of scissors. And then I'll have one for each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll have 11 patterns when I'm done. So I'm starting at the tail end. A dot, a dot, a dot, a dot in every corner. I'll have a ruler, connect the dots, cut it out, and then I'll have a little hole in the middle of it that I can put a piece of tape through, so I can tape these on tomorrow, and that'll save me a couple hours, I hope, of laying this out, because I'll know what it looks like on the other side, hopefully. This is a good way to replicate so both sides are very similar. No, I got it backwards. Upside down, right side up. It actually goes, well, you could tell. There you go. So just by transposing that over to the other side tomorrow, wow, that'll save a lot of time. I spent over an hour just laying the angles out and then getting the spacing right until I thought it was, well, I thought what I like. So these are all paper patterns for the other side. I'm sure that'll just make the other side go a lot quicker. This, again, boy oh boy. Another nice thing about doing this, I wouldn't do it on purpose of course, is it spreads over several days. You get to look at it over and over and over and over, and anybody that happens to stop by the shop, including Karen, I'll have them look at it just to get their the view of it. But, well, again, it only has to make me happy, and so far it does. But I'm trying to share information of how to lay these things out. I've done this for many, many years on many, many model aeroplanes. I'll bet I've made, I don't even want to think about the number. And I've always tried to share the information through the videos and through helping people and teaching them how to paint. And I don't know what else you can do. Anyway, the end of a long day. We'll pick this up tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed the video, and of course, thanks for watching.